Base, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Our next session is building a peer network to add value to your career. And in this session, you will learn what networking opportunities can add value to your career, how to identify which is the right peer network for you, and what to do if that network type doesn't exist in your area. I am so excited to introduce you to our panelists. We've had several discussions leading up to this panel, and they have amazing content to offer up to you guys that is actionable, that you can take with you today. I would love to introduce Lauren Fuertes, Krista Lee Whitelaw, and Lottie Johnson. Hello, ladies.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Before we get started, I'd love if each of you could just say hello and give a quick background on yourselves so our registrants can get to know you a little bit more. Lottie, let's go ahead and start with you.
Great, I'm Lottie Johnson. I've been in the EA world for over 10 years. I have a long tenure with my two current executives and started a peer networking network in Austin that I couldn't find anywhere else, and so that's what's brought me here today, and I'm excited to share what I've done to get here.
Awesome. Thanks. Krista Lee.
Hi, my name is Krista Lee Whitelaw. I am a Chief Operations Officer and partner at Texas Shockworks Off-Road. My previous role, I was an Executive Assistant and Chief Cultural Officer for about 6 or 7 years, so I'm excited to talk about how I've upscaled and transitioned into the role that I'm in today and joining the AEAN network. And yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Lauren?
So hi everybody, I'm Lauren. I have been in the healthcare industry for over 10 years and as an executive assistant for over 8. In my current role for just over 7 at ESO, and we are healthcare tech in the pre-hospital space. I joined AEAN, co-founded it with Lottie in 2015 and have enjoyed the growth over the years, and I'm excited to get to share some of that story today.
Awesome. I'm really excited for everyone to learn more about the Austin Executive Assistant Network and what peer networking has to offer. To get started, what have each of your experiences been with peer networking, and how has it helped you upscale and evolve?
So I'll take this one first. Mine started when I worked with one of my current executives. The first year I started working with him, he joined a network called YPO, and it's for young presidents and CEOs of businesses. And I really saw right away the value he was getting out of being able to build relationships with peers, because we all know there's usually not more than one CEO in a business. And so I was the only EA in that business, and tried to find a group that replicated what he was doing with YPO, and it just simply didn't exist in Austin, and I haven't really found one to exist anywhere really, at least in the United States for sure. And so I reached out to a few EAs in my network that I've been working with, and started with a happy hour, and over the years it's grown into something that's empowered me to grow as an EA and get to practice some leadership skills that I would have never gotten to practice, and to build some really meaningful relationships with people who know what I go through every single day, and we can share those experiences together. It's been great.
Can I just ditto what Lottie said? Am I allowed to do that? I second it. So my story really is very similar to Lottie's. My CEO is also in YPO, and I've really enjoyed watching how much he's enjoyed the forum approach and the networking with other like-minded, fast-paced, high-growth CEOs. And early on, I was looking for something similar for myself. And when Lottie reached out, I was excited to start socializing with more EAs. I was the only one at my company in the first 5 years, and so I just wanted to get around other EAs and share information and figure things out together. And yeah, we really enjoyed how much it's grown since then, and we'll get into some of that here in a little bit.
So unlike Lottie and Lauren, the executive that I supported in my previous role was not a part of YPO or anything like that. So my first experience with peer-to-peer networking was joining a John Maxwell leadership training group. It was a peer-led group that met weekly. And for those of you who may not be familiar with John Maxwell, he's a certified leadership coach and author. So in theory, we would select a novel, we would discuss the principles of that novel and how we could apply them to our life, both professionally and personally. During that time, Lottie actually connected with me via LinkedIn, and initially it was just a peer-to-peer connection. And like we've previously described, a lot of us are the only EA or the only chief of staff in our business, and so it can feel really isolated at times. And so I was excited to connect with someone who understood my challenges, would understood my wins and my growth plan. So it changed everything for me. Our conversations very quickly led to joining AEAN, and the power of this group and the power of peer-to-peer networking is one of the main reasons I felt confident enough to take the professional leap and upscale my role and pursue the role that I'm in today.
That's great. I'm excited even more so for this too, because I think with folks working remotely, isolation takes on a whole new meaning. And so this is even more important, which I'm really, really pumped to get into. So could you dive in then to what type of peer networking opportunities exist for EAs?
Yeah, happy to. We discovered over the years, there's really 3 kinds of networks. Ours started out as a social network, and that really is to meet other like-minded EAs, because as we know, there's different levels in the org and in the role type. And so finding a network of EAs that you can collaborate with and just kind of check in with, and more on like a monthly happy hour style, low commitment, but get together on a regular basis is the social network. And then the next level we've discovered along the way is a growth network. So this takes the kind of fun side of the social network and adds the growth component for continuing to evolve in your career and in your skill sets. You could attend webinars or conferences together and do debriefs after. You share resources with one another, what tools you use, what contacts you have throughout the city, and those kinds of things. And then what AEAN has grown into is the kind of third version, which is a strategic network. And what we found is that takes the fundamentals from the social network, because we all need that. And it takes the components of the growth network, because we are passionate, opportunity-driven, growth-driven individuals. And then it adds that next layer of accountability and confidentiality, that you can build very deep, purposeful relationships with one another and learn to give good, valuable feedback, learn to receive feedback well, which are things that we need in our roles all the time, and really take things to that next level in your career. But this kind of a network is very, very involved, high commitment level, high accountability, as I mentioned, and a very, very high level of confidentiality.
And given that it is that type of investment, how does an EA identify which network is right for them?
So first and foremost, I think before you can take any tangible steps towards either joining or even creating a peer networking group, you need to have an internal alignment discussion with yourself on your why. So many of us know Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It's a TED Talk. It's also a novel. He presents the idea that great leaders inspire others by putting their why or their purpose before their how, which is their process, or their what, which is their product or service. And he discusses this as the golden circle effect. And so he provides a fundamental roadmap into identifying the center of your why and how critical it is in understanding it. So as it relates to identifying the peer network, the network in theory is the mechanism or your how that's going to help you accomplish your why or your purpose. So if you're fully virtual, are you looking to build a stronger social network? Are you looking to enhance your educational portfolio? I mean, from there, you can identify what peer networking group will be the right fit for you.
That's great to point out. It's almost like a good accountability piece as well. And also it sets up our next question, which is once you've identified that type of network that aligns with your why and your purpose, what are the next steps you need to take from there?
So the first step is to take ownership. You are responsible for finding the opportunities that align for your why, and they're not always very easy to find, right? So you need to start with a simple Google search to find out if these meetup groups exist already. You can search on Google, you can search on LinkedIn, you can search on Facebook. I mean, there's anywhere, but it's taking the ownership of doing the search first to see what already exists, maybe going to a meetup to see if it satisfies your why, or joining a virtual Zoom or something and seeing if it aligns, and continuing to evolve what you find and if it aligns with your why and what you're going to do next. So the first and easiest thing to do is start your Google search. After that, if you're not finding what you want, then you need to decide, what am I searching for? So, if you're searching for a specific type of people, then you need to research on LinkedIn and try to find those people. And as scary as it sounds, reach out to them on LinkedIn. Send them a cold message on LinkedIn that is just as simple as, hey, I'm looking to connect with more EAs that are virtual, or more EAs in Austin or wherever you live, or more EAs that are in tech or healthcare, or whatever your why is. Finding people and finding a nugget that you can message them with that they can relate to. You don't sound like a sales pitch person. You sound like an individual who's looking to meet somebody, and just simply saying, hey, I'm interested in connecting with EAs in this whatever. Would you be interested in meeting up for coffee or a happy hour or a Zoom in COVID world? And seeing where it goes from there. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is they never respond, right? And so you're not out anything. So letting go of that fear and just reaching out to find if anybody's interested. And what I've found is people that don't respond, they weren't the right person for you to network with anyway, right? Because they're not interested in that. But the people that are, like Krista Lee was, I mean, she responded back very enthusiastically. And from there, the relationship grew very easily. But there was no, pressure to do anything that either one of us didn't want to do. And so it was really an enjoyable experience once you let go of the fear of what could happen. And then the other way you can build a network is you reach out to the EAs that you're already working, or executive or virtual assistants or personal assistants or admins or office managers, whichever realm you're in. Reach out to people you're already working with. I guarantee you've corresponded with somebody to schedule a meeting. You've corresponded with somebody to put an event on the calendar, or work on building organizing an event. There's all kinds of people we work with every day that are in our network that we're not taking advantage of to build a relationship with. And I can tell you firsthand, building relationships with people you're already working with, like Lauren, her and I, our executives were friends, so we were already working together. But once we became friends and got to know each other, work was so much more fun. Oh, I get to email Lauren and ask her, if I can put a meeting on the calendar, and it's just so much more personal, and it's a very rewarding day when you get to correspond with people you actually know and not just a name on an email. And then lastly, if you're really looking for a very specific group to achieve your why and you can't find it, you have to create it yourself. You need to find other people that are aligned with the same why and are interested in putting the work in to build a network that gives you guys value, and go from there. But a lot of it is just self-accountability of identifying what you need and what you want, and making it happen if it doesn't exist, and looking for it if it does.
That's great advice. I think that's something that we have heard from all of our panelists in beginning discussions. One of the first tips is reach out to your network, and don't be scared to. And it's hard because it feels, it's kind of a vulnerable situation, but whether you're asking for help or just asking to connect. But I mean, like, to your point, the worst they can say is no, or not answer you. There's only positivity really in terms of results that can come out of that. So
And I think,
Yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I think people will be really surprised how many people that they reach out to engage back, because so many people are looking for something more than maybe what they have within their own company, because they're probably the only EA there. And so just taking the step, you'll be really pleasantly surprised what you do get back. And to Lottie's point, if they don't respond, then they weren't probably the ones that were going to align with your why anyways, and that's okay. And then if you have your own set of EAs in your company, this is something that you can actually build for yourselves, and probably a lot of times have company support within it. So, you know, it could be outside of the company if you need it to be, it could be inside the company. There's so many possibilities. I think that's the beauty of finding and building your own network, is you really get to make it exactly what you need it to be.
And you all get to work together to build it, right? Like
Yeah.
you all are building it organically into something you want. And yeah, reaching out to someone can actually make their day. Like you are very into, you know, in your mind of like, oh my God, what if they say no? But you could actually make somebody's day and be like, yeah, I would love to get happy hour and talk shop. Like, you know, we love talking about the struggles we had because we don't ever get to talk about them and nobody understands them. And so, yeah, biggest advice is just don't be afraid. If you need it, other people need it, and they're going to be excited if it's the right people.
And for those watching now in our Facebook community, we've noticed just in the last couple of weeks how much of these conversations are happening organically.
Oh, great.
So yeah, we definitely encourage you guys to keep doing that. And which is why I was so excited for this panel, but because it almost kind of formalizes all of these conversations that are happening into how they can help you professionally and advance in your career. And for Austin Executive Assistant Network, it was the strategic network, right, that really drew you all into being a part of this.
Yes, it's definitely what it's grown into. We mentioned earlier, we started as more of a social network. Lottie just had a need and wanted to socialize and get to know other EAs on a deeper level beyond just scheduling for our executives. And we recognized pretty early on, the first few months, that there was a core group of us always showing up, and there was a core group of us that kind of led the conversations, and they were more than a social level. It was sharing the resources, it was talking education opportunities. And so we decided, that group of us, that we really wanted to kind of take it on and grow it into something different. And the first several years together have really been focused on getting our foundation, aligning our why, talking about what we want out of the network, and really building an infrastructure that allows for all of those things. And I can't express enough the beauty in this is that you get to create and build exactly what you need and want. And when you align on your why and you start there, both personally and as a network, it just starts to fall into place, and you get to explore things together. You know, we definitely keep the social side, and in COVID, that's been an interesting challenge because some of us are comfortable in person, some aren't, and so we're having to be really flexible, which I think we're all used to as EAs, but it's still a skill. Even flexing within ourselves can be challenging sometimes. But then, you know, we also do a lot of educational things, joining summits like today, and also what topics we're interested in growing skill sets in, and both, you know, doing workshops and just internal discussions. It's also bringing our executives in and hearing what their experience has been with M&A opportunities and exits. It's bringing other external experts, industry experts, EA leaders into the group to have different conversations. And it's been so much fun because it's tackling exactly where we're at within our lives. And I think that's one of the greatest things. And then taking that to the next level on the strategic side, really deepening the relationships we have with one another, really diving in on the accountability side. One of the things we've been focused on lately is our career planning. It's so easy in our world to just get going day to day that we forget to look 3 and 5 years ahead, especially for those of us that are tenured with our executives and are just really enjoying where we're at. We still have to take that step back and look at our careers. What's that golden arrow? Where are we trying to get to? And what steps do we take now to get there? And when you have a peer network that you can bounce ideas off of, that know you so well, that can say, actually, have you thought about this? Or, but what about, you know, we know you love the culture side. Have you thought about the people team, or whatever it is? And the conversations are just that much richer for us, both because we've been through the growing pains of getting it kind of set up and in place, but then also because we've been able to develop those deep relationships, and we can have that very deep, authentic, push your boundaries conversation because we've committed to that level together. Did I cover it, ladies?
To build on that, you did so good, Lauren. To build on that, you know, without those deep relationships, you can't hold each other accountable, right? Like you have to be extremely close with somebody for them to be able to tell you the truth when it's the hard truth. And so for us, that strategic group is very much like accountability and action plans. We want to, all of us want to grow, and we know we have to be pushed to grow. And so we've opened up the vulnerability of being open and honest about all of our goals and what we're going through. And when we clearly see that somebody is losing sight of their goal, it's our responsibility to call them out. And it takes a lot of emotional intelligence not to get offended and to be like, okay, I really need to take a step back and look at what I'm doing here. And then I can come up with a new plan and bring it to the group, and they can give me honest feedback about what they think of that. And then I can take those words and do even more action. So it's really all about that accountability and action plan to grow. Otherwise, you got no one to bounce ideas off of, and you're just kind of floating in the universe on your own, hoping you get there, right? So it's been extremely rewarding.
That's great. It's almost like how, you know, and across all careers, you know, I came, before coming onto base full time, I was a consultant for a lot of tech startups, and a lot in that space, mentorship is huge, but but we also aren't, I usually wasn't the only person, you know, in my role. And so in an assistant role, it's interesting to see how you can kind of take those benefits of mentorship and embed them in the community like you guys have. So how do you take then what you receive from your network and use it to upscale and evolve? You spoke a little bit, Lottie, about how you hold each other accountable and you kind of have these action plans, and I'm sure we'll dive into more of that in the Q&A, but I would love to hear just in general, you know, how you take that, how you take what you receive from your community and kind of help it.
Yeah, Krista Lee, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm actually going to jump on this one. I know Lottie and Lauren have done a really great job talking about the right fit and finding your why within that network. So as I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't be in the role that I'm in today without this network. So during my previous role, our company went through an acquisition. And so some acquisition stories have a happy ending. Mine wasn't so much the case. And so like some similar in my shoes, I had to evaluate what I wanted the next chapter of my professional career to look like. Being a career EA was something I'd always envisioned for myself, and I loved being an EA. I thrived in the chief culture officer, chief of staff role, and could see myself very easily doing that again. But however, you know, easy as that may sound, this network, this amazing peer-to-peer group held me accountable to my why. And we facilitated exercises to really peel back some layers and understand the why behind me enjoying the role that I was in. And quite simply, it was, I loved helping to run a business. So when the opportunity to step in a chief operations officer role at TSW came to be, it was a leap of faith moment. And this peer network helped me not only navigate the emotional roller coaster that I was on, but they provided a direct, you know, no fluff, professional perspective feedback that I so appreciated. I was able to upscale my role because I felt the enormous support system behind me every step of the way.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right, Krista Lee. I mean, without the accountability and the safe place to discuss what's going on in your career, you can get pigeonholed into where you're at, because nobody wants to lose a job. Taking another one doesn't guarantee it's going to be better. Being an EA or any kind of assistant, it's a very intimate relationship between you and whoever you're assisting, right? So you could end up with a completely wrong match, or you could take a leap of faith that it's a bigger role or even a lower role and just not be happy in those. And without a peer group to really discuss your why with, and trust that those people are going to give you valuable feedback and honest feedback, and that they understand what you're going through, it's priceless. I mean, the golden nugget to all of it is the accountability and the actionable opportunities you have there. So being able to make a plan with people that understand it, them holding you accountable to it, you going and executing that action plan and being able to come back, and it just like a complete circle over and over, and it doesn't end. I mean, unless you retire, and even then probably won't end for me, but having a group that you can talk about everything with, and they know the history, they know the job, they know everything, and they can give you valuable feedback, it's just completely priceless. But that aligned with our why, and so that's that's the golden nugget that I love about this network, is the actionability that you are able to walk away with.
That's awesome. So what action items can our attendees take with them today?
So that's obviously right up our alley, since we love us some action plans. So let's start really simple. It's self-reflecting on your why. If the idea of joining a network is really intriguing for you, you have to start with yourself. Find your why, discover which type of network it is that would really speak to that and facilitate that, fill your cup, and then go searching for it. Do your Google search or LinkedIn search like Lottie mentioned. And if one's not already there, then you have to take that leap of faith and start to create it. We also have our Facebook group post on right now for our session. Add your LinkedIn to that if you're interested, and say what type of network you're interested in, and start connecting with one another from our panel today. We'll also host a follow-up panel for those interested in taking that step further, following through on the action plan, that we'll host just before Thanksgiving. And we'll have a lot of fun doing a workshop style panel that day. And then we're also here for Q&A. AEAN is happy to be a resource and answer questions. We're by no means experts, but we have been doing this for several years and have found some things that work well and some things, at least, that didn't for us. And we're open books, so let's have the conversation now.
Awesome. I think that's great. And I'm really excited for the Q&A portion, because like we keep saying, there are a lot of actionable steps that people can take with them today. And one of the things we love to do at BASE is really encourage our community to hit on those 3 pillars of our summit, which is learn what and how to automate, how to use that time to be more strategic, and then of course to upskill and evolve. And I think this is a really, really important piece of that 3rd pillar. So we will see you guys in the live Q&A, and we'll put more action steps there. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thanks.